In part 2 of our exploration on symbiotic relationships, we're going to take a look at a different form of ammensalism, that being what we call ecological competition. So here we see a very simple example of ecological competition. Both the grizzly bear and the wolf both want this dead deer because this dead deer represents a common food source for both of them. Now in the situation on top, we see that when we have one grizzly bear, because the grizzly bear is significantly larger than the one wolf in this picture here, we know the grizzly bear is not going to be affected because this wolf is smart enough to know, if I want this food, I need to fight with the grizzly bear, and because the grizzly bear is much larger than me, there's a chance that I will get very hurt or even get killed trying to fight this grizzly bear for food, which means the grizzly bear is not going to be affected by its interaction with the wolf. Now, because a singular wolf is not able to compete against the grizzly bear to get this food here, its only option is to run away and look for food. And because it is unable to eat, the wolf is harmed by this interaction, because if it can't find food, it dies from this. So we can see, because the grizzly bear is unaffected while the wolf is harmed because of its inability to find food, competition is technically also a form of ammensalism. The most interesting part of this relationship here is that the opposite can also be true with the wolf and the grizzly bear. Let's say that this one grizzly bear encounters a dead deer for food, but instead of one wolf trying to compete with it, it would need to compete with 3 wolves, that being an entire pack. So here, it's the grizzly bear that actually has the disadvantage, because it knows that if it wants this food, it will need to fight with more than one wolf at a time, which can be dangerous for the bear. So in this case, because the bear is running away from this pack of wolves here, it's the bear that is harmed while the pack of wolves is unaffected, resulting in ammensalism again, but with the opposite animals being unaffected and harmed. The final form of symbiosis that we're going to discuss is my personal favorite to study and to explain, that being parasitism, which is the opposite of mutualism, in which one organism benefits while the other organism from which it benefits is harmed in the process. Or more simply put, one organism benefits at the expense of the other. And probably the best and most annoying example for humans of a parasitic relationship is that with mosquitoes, and of course between mosquitoes and us humans. Now, because of how specific parasitism is, we give specific terms to the organism that benefits and the organism that is harmed. So mosquitoes are what we call the parasite in this partnership, because when they land on a human and suck their blood, they are the beneficiaries of this, while humans are defined as the host because we are harmed from this process. Now, for those unfamiliar about why mosquitoes have to suck your blood, it's actually the females exclusively that suck the blood of humans. Well, technically not just humans, technically any organism with blood will work, and the mosquito is not actually drinking your blood. It needs a lot of the resources, such as proteins, inside of your blood in order to be able to produce eggs, meaning that without human blood, or without mammalian blood, mosquitoes would not be able to reproduce. Now, obviously, humans are harmed by it because we need our blood, and any loss of blood is bad for humans, but also mosquitoes have the ability to spread diseases because of organisms that they carry within inside of them. So many mosquitoes actually transport pathogenic bacteria and viruses, as well as other small parasitic organisms. The best known example of this is malaria, which is caused by a single-celled organism. So in addition to stealing our blood, mosquitoes can also make us very sick by giving us other diseases that they carry with them. Now, the thing that makes parasitism so interesting to study is this question here. Does a parasite want to kill its host? Well, again, let's say that mosquitoes are so good at stealing blood from humans that they actually cause humans to go extinct. Well, remember why mosquitoes need to take the blood of their host. They need to take it in order to lay eggs and reproduce. So the answer to this question is actually no, because the parasite, in this case, the mosquito, needs the host, in this case, humans, in order to be able to survive. Now, it depends on how the parasite exploits the host, so to speak, but in this case, without the host, mosquitoes would be not able to lay eggs, and therefore not able to reproduce, and after this generation of mosquitoes die, the entire species dies with it. And this is why it's very important for most parasites not to kill their host. But as always in biology, there are very interesting exceptions. And these are what we call parasitoid relationships. So in biology, whenever you see the suffix oid, this is a suffix that means like. So these are parasite-like relationships with one key difference here. So the relationship we're going to look at is between this rather huge and vicious-looking wasp, which is what we call a tarantula hawk. Named such because they literally hunt this large type of spider that we call tarantulas. Now, in this case, the tarantula hawk doesn't hunt this tarantula for food, at least not food for itself. So what the tarantula hawk does is it uses this very vicious-looking stinger at the end of its abdomen, and not only is this stinger huge and is this extraordinarily painful to get stung by, but it is also poisonous. So this stinger contains a nerve poison that the tarantula hawk uses to paralyze its host, the tarantula, and then the female tarantula hawk, the wasp, will lay a single egg on the surface of this paralyzed tarantula, and after the egg hatches, the larva, the immature wasp, then eats the tarantula hawk. So in this case, this is defined as a parasitoid relationship and not a parasitic relationship, because the tarantula hawk's relationship with its host, the tarantula, results in the host getting killed when the offspring of the tarantula hawk actually eat and consume the entire host. One very famous example, although it's not a real example, this occurs in science fiction. The aliens from the Alien movies, that being Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Alien Covenant, Alien vs. Predator, and so on. The aliens from this series of movies are a very good example of parasitoids because the parasite lays an egg inside of its host, and the egg eventually grows into this form called a chest burster, which, after consuming the inside of its host, rips a hole through the host's abdomen, killing the host in the process, and eventually growing into these horrible monstrosities that we see in this picture here, and the cycle again repeats itself. So because this is an organism that needs a host in order to survive and reproduce, but because it kills the host in the process, this is why this is a parasitoid relationship and not a true parasitic relationship. Now that we've finished explaining the differences between all of the types of symbiotic relationships, you can try the practice questions below to see if you can identify the difference between mutualism, parasitism, commensalism, and ammensalism.